Welcome back to another episode of the PokeTable podcast, the show where small Pokemon business owners share insights, talk about the hobby, and cover everything that's happening in the Pokemon TCG space. I'm Logan from Zippy's Card Corner, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Alex from PokeLegends TCG.
So we've got a really interesting episode today. We'll be breaking down the biggest news from the past week, plus some rumors that are already kind of stirring up for the hype of what's ahead. And we'll also catch up on how our businesses are doing. Because at the end of the day, this is a podcast about our businesses, and giving insights to other business owners and customers is sort of the whole point. And then we'll wrap things up by going into some deeper conversations about, pricing products the right way, Scarlet and Violet sets that fans should be on the lookout for, as well as kind of what's ahead with the Mega Block. So we got a lot to cover today. But first, let's dive into the news. So Alex, you want to start us off with some of the stuff that's been going on this past week?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that intro, Logan. And guys, please make sure to like and subscribe. Super important. Please share this with your friends. It's very important to us, and we'd be forever grateful. Let's jump into the news. First thing I want to talk to you about, Logan, is the official reveal of Phantasmal Flames and the fact it's only getting 94 base cards. This makes this set the smallest in, I think, over a decade. Yeah. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on how will this affect its value and what this means for Phantasmal Flames.
So, yeah, it seems small, and because it is small. So the main set are basically all of the commons, uncommons, rares, double rares in a set. Yeah. The larger set, the full set, the complete set, includes secret rares, and the rumors are saying that we're going to get around 130 cards in total for the set. So that means we're looking at 30 plus secret rares. And again, there's also some rumors about kind of the numbers we've seen. I think we're seeing like 13 illustration rares and 5, SIRs. So a good amount of secret rares. But yeah, the overall set is going to be pretty small. I think Mega Evolutions is looking at like 180, 190 cards. And some of the bigger, sets are having that as well. Black Bolt and White Flare was over, was over 300 cards, I think. Each set had 160-ish, 170. So quite small. I think that that's good. I think that there are the headliners, Charizard and Gengar, are big enough that it's going to see demand regardless. I mean, we're already seeing that. And I think the smaller set will keep things contained, I guess, in terms of, the chase cards, what's sought after. Sure. So I'm excited for it. I think pull rates will be interesting to see. A small set like this, I say small set like this might have different pull rates than what we're used to seeing over the past couple of sets. But I'm excited. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think part of the reason why it's so small is normally, English sets are comprised of 2 Japanese sets that are combined into one. But it looks like this one will only be from Inferno-X. So I think that's part of the reason why it's so small. I think a lot of it will be determined by what the SIRs look like. Hopefully we'll be getting some more reveals over the next couple weeks as we get closer to the Japanese equivalent of Inferno-X. Right. But, the thing that I'm reminded of is, sometimes Charizard can't carry a set by itself, depending on what the card looks like. I mean, if we look at Obsidian Flames, we look at Darkness Ablaze, those sets didn't do that well, and they were headlined by Charizard. So, and with the fact that this is a very small set, that means pull rates are, they're not going to be what we've been seeing in Black Bolt and White Flare and, an upcoming English Mega Evolution set, Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia. So It'll be interesting to see what the pull rates turn out to be, and what the reveals are. I think that's going to have a huge effect on what the overall value is going to be.
Right.
So,
You mentioned pull rates, and just to clarify, you know, better pull rates means less exclusivity. And
right.
when you have SIRs that are super sought after, but they're more easy to come by than sort of what we're used to over the past couple of months, that means that these cards there will be more of them. And basic economics says more supply is going to reduce that value. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, for sure, and especially at release, the top pulls, whatever the value gets put on those can definitely drive the market of sealed product, especially in the beginning. They play less of a role as print runs run out, but at release, those will play a huge factor. So it'll be interesting to see what those reveals look like.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of Phantasmal Flames, I want to talk a little bit about the Japanese equivalent that you discussed a second ago. So Inferno-X is releasing in just a couple of weeks. So September 26th, that's a big day. We have a couple of other releases happening on that same day. But Inferno-X releasing that day, we're 3 weeks away. We usually start to see the reveal of the main set cards, all of the commons, uncommons, rares, double rares, about 2 weeks before release. And then the SARs start to trickle in. What we're seeing already, though, is that pre-orders from Japanese suppliers is very high.
Yeah, very, very high. Like Glory of Team Rocket high. And the prices we saw with Glory of Team Rocket were unprecedented. Right. And we're starting to see some of those again. And again, it'll be interesting to see what the reveals look like, because that can determine, that can definitely push the price up or down depending on what those are going to look like. So the next couple weeks, guys, are going to be really interesting when it comes to Inferno-X. And this is the other thing. So some Japanese suppliers are taking orders now. So, some store owners might be tempted to buy it now, with the possibility of it going up even further when reveals come out.
Yeah, and sort of what we hinted at with Phantasmal Flames, the artwork on the SIRs and SARs are going to be the make or break point with this set. Because it's small, you're really banking on the headliners, Gengar and Charizard, to really, pull through. And if they don't, then prices will likely come down. But if they do come through, the Japanese boxes, I could easily see with tariffs, with shipping, like everything included like that. I mean, I don't know. We're looking at 140, 150, maybe even a box. At least with what prices are looking like right now. So really interested to see kind of what happens. But keep your head on a swivel with the news and seeing if any of these leaks pop up over the next couple of weeks. So just something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely stay tuned, guys. It'll be an interesting next couple of weeks. And, we got another reveal recently as well. The Charizard X Premium Collection was also revealed. Yeah. So, Logan, I am excited about this one. So, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see what packs come with it, but there are a ton of variety. There's some Surging Sparks, there's Destined Rivals, there's going to be Mega Evolution, Phantasmal Flames, and I think there's Journey Together. So it's going to be a really interesting mix of different sets in this premium collection. So what do you think, first of all, what do you think of the artwork on this thing? And where do you think this is going to stack up with some previous premium collection boxes?
So the artwork on the UPC is, I think, amazing, to say the least. I'm a huge fan of what they've done with the artwork for Phantasmal Flames and this UPC box. I think that I mean, it highlights Charizard, Mega Charizard X, and I think the colors just are really good. I think this is going to be a very, very anticipated product.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing for the first time the new, I forget what it's called, Mega Attack Rarity, but
Yeah.
it's the promo. So in this
Yeah.
box, we're going to get a promo of Mega Charizard X, and it's going to be that Mega Attack Rarity version where, you have the Japanese characters that, give the attack name of the Pokemon. And so that will be, a thing to keep an eye out of why, people want this as well.
Yeah.
Not just to display the box, but, to go after this promo.
Yeah, the promo cards alone could go nuts in this. So again, it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out because the artwork itself, and then the I don't know if you saw the play mat inside of it, but it's epic by itself. I mean, everything about this box, man, just screams just awesome. So it'll be interesting. I don't think Pokemon will be able to print enough. We'll just say that. We'll say it that way.
No, that's what I was going to say. So this UPC releases November 14th, the same day that Phantasmal Flames comes out. We're already seeing, super demand for some of the pre-orders with Phantasmal Flames. This box as well. Best Buy has already done their pre-orders for it. I think that this is going to be a very hard to come by box.
For sure. I think the news this past week has definitely been pretty nuts, especially with the set being a Charizard set headlined by Mega Charizard. Just makes it even more crazy. So let's get into our business updates for each one of us. I know, Logan, you were on vacation for the week. You want to talk a little bit about how that affected your business, some things you did to let your customers know that you're going to be gone that week, and some things you put into place to continue running your business.
Right. So as a small business, a one-man team, as I like to say, we're human, we do things, we have personal lives outside of this, we have jobs, all kinds of things. And so going on vacation, going, out of town is something that you just have to deal with as a small business. And there are a couple of ways that I've done this over the year, past couple of months is, you have, opportunities to, close down shop. So basically on the site, I've done something like, hey, I'm going to be out for the next week. I was in Japan earlier this year and I was gone for 2 weeks. And so I had a big banner across my site that said, oh, shipping will be delayed for the next 2 weeks. So that's an option. I also had a pet sitter that came by and I was messaging her. I had, some local pickups that others wanted. And so, she was, looking for boxes in inventory and setting them outside. And, I was coordinating with the buyers while I was out of town. So there's a lot of ways you can do that. That's how I did it. And in terms of the keeping up with content, because we've talked about it, content is king with small Pokemon businesses. I've talked about it before, but I've been batching my content for a couple of weeks now, and so with this, it was really just like on autopilot. I had a busy weekend last weekend, kind of getting everything ready, but by Sunday, when we left, I had all my reels scheduled, edited, and didn't have to worry about it. And that, made the, vacation a lot more enjoyable. And so that was something that I'm really glad that I was able to do. And, I'm back this weekend and I took some time on the plane ride yesterday to already, script out all of my videos for this next week. And so today we got some video filming to do. But that's been my week, and sort of an insight into how, taking some time off, has been okay, and what you can do to continue to, capitalize on your business while you're away.
That's awesome. So I've gotten a lot of inspiration from Logan when it comes to batching content, and that's actually what I started to do this last week, was batching my content. So I did my scripting and my filming for 4 or 5 videos last Sunday.
Yeah, you were on a roll this week.
I was on a roll. Great. Yeah, I was able to post every day, and it felt way easier. So I think I'm going to continue doing that. It just seems so daunting sometimes if you have to, script out your video, film it, and then edit it all on the same day.
Right.
But if you have your scripting already done, your filming already done, and then what I did, when I got done with my day job, I would just edit one of the videos that I filmed. It would take an hour, and then I'd post it, and it worked out really well. So I think I'm going to continue doing that. Another thing that was really interesting this past week is I actually did a poll on my Instagram, just asking my followers, my viewers, a couple questions when it comes to the type of content they want to see from me.
I saw this, and I'm interested in hearing how it went, because I didn't want to skew the results, so I didn't actually answer, but I'm curious.
Yeah, so basically, I've asked a few questions, right? One was, earlier in, my journey, right? I did a lot of raw, unedited content, right? I'd basically just turn the camera on and talk. Like, it wouldn't be scripted. It would just kind of be off the cuff kind of a video.
Well, and that was sort of what I saw from you, when I started my, Pokemon journey, and I was following other Pokemon businesses and creators. That's what I saw from you. And so that was what I was used to. Yeah.
And I did, that's pretty much all I did. Like, I did zero scripting, none of that. So I asked my viewers, like, do you want to see more of that? Or, my next question was, do you want to see the type of content I've been doing recently, which is a lot more scripted, visualizations. I'll try and stick to one topic, and it's a little bit more professional quotes.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I had that, and then I also had one where if my viewers wanted to see a mix of both, right?
Okay.
Where I do some raw and unedited stuff, and I also do more of the scripted content. And my fourth question was, honestly, Alex, your content just kind of sucks. You need to be better. You need to overall just be better, right? Now, luckily, there weren't that many votes on that one. There were a couple. But, but for the vast majority...
Everyone's a critic, so...
I know. For the vast majority, though, it was either the raw and unedited content, type of content I did earlier in my journey.
Yeah.
Or the mix of both. It was like overwhelming. It was like, I don't know, 85%. Were
those two options?
Those two categories combined were like 85%. So it was overwhelming. So I think I'm gonna do a mix of both, but I think for this week, I think I'm going to, slightly lean into unedited, raw, more, maybe not unedited, but more raw type content where, I turn the camera on and I just talk.
Basically.
Yeah. More of the content I did earlier. And I'm going to see how that goes this week. So that's the big priority for this week.
That's cool. I mean, so, for the listeners out there that are also Pokemon businesses and creators and in the content creation space, like, there are so many different ways to be successful, right? You have so many people right now that have the style where it's just a talking head, with their front facing camera on and they're holding it, and they just put up a background of an article, and they're pointing at it, and they're like da 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 da. And I've seen creators that are super successful at that. The amount of work that it takes to do that is a lot less, in my opinion, than when you're creating a lot of visualizations, creating a lot of graphics and animations, and chopping up, your videos, and, really focusing on lighting and, the sound quality. Like, the point of those other videos are that it's simple, it's raw, it's like, that's what they're there for. You have the short form content, where you have people that are using an old Apple microphone, and they're just like talking into it with like the headphones, and like they're just holding it up, and it's like the sound quality is not as good as if you're having like a big mic. But that's the point. Like, it's not meant to be the super professional thing. It's supposed to be sort of a quick, dirty, like, just simple piece of content. And so I think, like I said, and it's like, that's what I'm used to with you. And I remember, I followed you for those reasons. And so I think taking the stuff that you've learned, of, where you're doing a lot of the editing and focusing on some of those other things that are, really, detailed, I think will only help, make you more efficient, more, quicker at doing it all. So I'm excited. I think, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then, also another business update. I am having a drop later today. Woo-hoo. So, I've been doing a pretty good cadence of about a drop a month. And this one will be the first one where I'm doing 2 in a month. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes, for sure. So on our next podcast, next week, I will definitely give the results of how that went.
Cool.
But speaking of drops, Logan, you have one next weekend, don't you?
Yep. We got a busy couple of weekends for the two of us. So next week is my monthly drop. So I've done one for the past. This will be the 3rd month in a row, and we're bigger, we're better this month than last month. Hopefully that trend continues. But this month, we got, a lot more product that we can hopefully give out to a lot more customers. Because last month, we sold out of like the really sought after product within like 30 minutes. And then, almost all of the rest of the product was gone, within the day and a half after. I'm hoping that, the really hyped products can stick around for a little bit longer this time because we have a lot more of it. But we'll see. So in terms of, business sort of insights about it. So this week I plan on having a piece of content, like a dedicated reel for announcing the drop. And basically what I'm going to do is we use a tool. Alex and I both use it. It's called ManyChat. And you can basically set up automations for comments. And so that's sort of where you see like, comment guide, in the comments, or comment guru, or whatever you see, And so, Alex and I will do ones where it's like, comment Pokemon, or comment Pokemon cards. And recently I've been doing ones where it's like, comment Zippy, Zippy's Card Corner. And it will automate a DM to their DMs, basically giving them a link to, subscribe to the newsletter, or, a direct navigation to your site. And so this weekend, I will have a piece of content this week, basically enticing people to comment Zippy, and it will navigate them to a link to subscribe to the newsletter, where I will give out the exclusive date and time about, when this drop is going to take place, to make it worth their while to subscribe. And I actually got this idea from Alex, who did, a couple drops a couple months ago, where I was, doing my first. And so that's a really good strategy, I think. And I know Alex has had his drop, this weekend, and he's done, his content. So that's something to keep in mind about, with these kinds of drops.
Yeah, using ManyChat it's a great way to drive engagement too with your viewers, and it's really good for you as a business to that email, that customer information, that's a great way for secondary marketing. It's a great way to use secondary marketing. So super useful. Definitely encourage new store owners to take advantage of that.
And I I want to warn something. Like, it's so important to market these drops, right? Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to just be like, hey guys, by the way, I just added some stuff, on the site. I do this once a month. Go check it out. You can do that, but it's for smaller stores that are, not, a lot less known, and you're really hoping that your audience, catches wind of something. You really want to build that hype. You want to build that exclusivity, that FOMO, to really, drive people to the site at a specific time, and sort of create that opportunity for them to even know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to note as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Logan, another thing I wanted to ask you about. So I noticed you actually got the meta verification badge on your profile. How has that? Have you noticed any changes? Any improvements to engagement? Anything like that with the verification badge? Has that made a difference at all for you?
It's very interesting that you bring that up. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had my first situation where we had another account spoof me, where they duplicated my name, my image, and basically in the bio, they were attempting to follow my followers and entice them to DM them information because they won a prize. And I had a couple people reach out saying, hey, is this you? Is this legitimate? And I said, whoa, absolutely not. And so I applied to Instagram to have this account removed. And when I did it alone, it didn't work. They said, no, this account is absolutely fine. And so I had to ask, my followers on my story to please report this account. Just for the safety of the community, right? It's like, you don't want scammers doing that. And on a personal note, it's like, it gives my, business a bad name. Anyways, the account got taken down, but it took, a couple of people to do it as well. And so that was sort of the first sort of red flag of like, okay, I need a little bit more verification on who is who. And so that was sort of the main driver of why I did that. Now, I would be lying if I said that there were other things that I was thinking about when I did it. So I just recently crossed 10,000 followers. And so that was sort of a moment where, like, I'm a business, I'm selling things. 10,000 followers is enough to make people, start to think about the legitimacy, where, not to say that you don't have that before, but as you get more numbers, you get a little bit more legitimacy. It feels like that.
Yeah. And so every time Logan talks about this, I have to mention Logan went from 500 followers like 3 months ago to now he's got over 11,000. So I cannot stress, or all organically, by the way. Logan didn't put like $10,000 into ads or something. It was all organic content.
Yeah.
So I just want to stress how impressive and how proud I am.
I appreciate it.
So,
yeah. No, it's been fun. It's been exciting. And so, yeah, I'd be lying if I said that, the blue verification badge wasn't also to add to sort of the I guess the intimacy between myself and viewers of, oh, this guy's a little bit more legit than, I would give him credit for if he didn't have the badge. It sucks that that's the situation that we're in, but it is. And so back to your original question of like, how has it affected engagement? What I've noticed is that I haven't noticed a super increase in views and engagement in my videos. What I have noticed though is that I'm seeing a lot more re-engagement with comments that I post on other videos and follows that I give to other creators. And what I mean by that is part of the Instagram game is making sure that you're not just, a one-sided creator. You are also engaging with the community, engaging with the content that you're creating as well. You're leaving likes, you're leaving comments. You're giving back, as I would say. And so what I've noticed is with the blue verification badge, there is a lot more notice about the comments that I leave on videos than before. So, Deep Pocket Monster, has over a million followers. Without the blue verification badge, you really got, like, if you want to get, so I'll restart. It's a good opportunity to comment on bigger posts, bigger, creators and their posts, just to get a little bit more engagement about your profile, right? If you have a comment that blows up, 500 likes on a comment in a video that got over 1 million views, those are going to be people that go to your account. Not all of them, but there are some of them. If 500 likes, you get 10 followers out of that. That's just basically, you just left a comment. Yeah. And so with Deep Pocket Monster videos, now my comment gets a little bit more noticed, right? You just naturally, we see that blue verification badge, it adds a little bit more legitimacy. And so I've noticed that larger creators are more quickly to follow back, and for viewers to more quickly like my comments, like my engagement, which ultimately both of those lead to more views and more engagement on my own content.
I see. Interesting. No, it makes sense, but I never thought of it that way. Getting more engagement from the comments you post on other creators. It makes sense, but I never thought of that angle.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So for those that need a little inspiration on something you could be doing, to better engage with the community, is like and comment on other people's posts. That will, not only increase the audience that people will see of your account, but it also tells the algorithm what content that you are liking, what you're engaging with. It helps boost the content that you're already creating. It just helps you get on the algorithm's good side.
Right. Got it. No, I love it. And I do not have the verification badge. And what you just said, it's definitely making me consider getting it. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Now there are a couple things. So I'm only on the basic plan. I think it goes up in price pretty quickly. And so right now, I'm not looking for, some of the more expensive features. But maybe in the future that will go up as well.
Yeah. I think the basic is what, like 44 a month or something like that?
No. So the basic is like, I think 15 a month.
15 a month. Okay.
The middle tier is where you start to see some of the, I think, nicer features, where you can link in a Reels caption. So, or in a Reel, I don't know how it works. But I just have the $15 a month one.
Gotcha. Interesting. Cool. Love it.
But yeah, that I think wraps up most of the business stuff. Anything that you wanted to add before we move on to some of the deeper conversations this week?
No, I think I'm really excited for this week because it's a big week for both of us. It's, you're getting ready for your drop next weekend. I have my drop today. The content that I'm going to be creating this week, it's going to look a little bit different than the content I've been creating recently. So if any of my viewers are watching, please be on the lookout. But yeah, no, I think we can get into some of the topics we had planned out for today. One I really wanted to talk to you about, Logan, is with the arrival of the first Mega Evolution set in English coming out later this month. It really puts a exclamation mark on the end of Scarlet and Violet. Yeah. And we are finally done with Scarlet and Violet. There are some print runs that are still gonna happen for some of the later sets. Twilight Masquerade, Shrouded Fable, etc. Some of the later ones, but eventually these print runs are going to be gone.
Right.
They're it's only a matter of time now.
Yep.
And I really wanted to ask you, what does the future look like for some of these sets, and which ones do you think are going to be the most sought after?
I mean, it's we have a pretty good idea. The problem with that question is that this block, this era has been so chaotic in terms of the ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
Like, the first half of this block, the first year and a half, were not super, like, the hype was not there.
Yeah.
And the last half of it, it's been the biggest we've ever seen in the Pokemon community. And so you have sets that, like Scarlet and Violet base set, that are still, relatively low priced, just because, in the beginning they weren't very popular. And compared to some of the current sets, they're still not very popular. But that doesn't mean that they're not increasing in value. Every single box now, every single booster box, I think, is over $230 in the set. And I think we'll continue to see gains, as those are, especially, the first couple of sets are running out of print. I think we'll continue to see small injections of 151, just because that was such a popular set. But I think we'll also start to, that's going down. But especially, I don't think we'll see any more Scarlet and Violet product. So I think, but, with Pokemon's history, it's like, we know that everything's going to go up. That's just how it is. Now, will we see, decreases when we enter a bear market? Probably. But does that mean it's going back to, MSRP? I don't think so. I'll pause there. Any thoughts on that?
I think you're right. I think it could. There are going to be price adjustments that are going to be different depending on the set. But yes, I definitely think it's possible that some of them could drop, especially if there's an injection of more product of reprints and things like that. That'll be interesting to see which sets are affected more than others. But the really interesting thing, and I want to talk about this really quickly, is with Scarlet and Violet, it was sort of the introduction of the special illustration rares and the illustration rares when it comes to it. And what I mean by that is the sort of style that we've seen introduced with Scarlet and Violet.
Yep.
So if you look at some of the Sword and Shield era hits, like the Lugia from Silver Tempest and the Gengar from Fusion Strike, there are, I like to call it was more like poster art. You have you saw them in these dramatic scenes, and they were in these battles and things like that.
Sure.
With the special and regular illustration rares, you could the style changed.
Yeah.
It was more like you could see them in their Pokemon sort of in their real world almost.
Sure.
You got little peaks in their day-to-day life, more so than them battling a Mega Blastoise or something.
Right.
So, and at first that didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? How the introduction of IRs and SARs with Scarlet and Violet base, how well did that go, in your opinion?
I mean, it lends itself back to this idea that Scarlet and Violet was not super, sought after in the beginning. The first year and a half, people just weren't into it. The IRs, the SIRs, the chases weren't what people wanted compared to what we saw from Sword and Shield, right? They weren't there weren't a whole lot of Pokemon that, you know, were super fan favorites that had super amazing artwork, or at least, you know, at the time. And yeah, like we didn't really have a chase until Twilight Masquerade with the Greninja. So like not a chase that was like super sought after. And so and Twilight Masquerade came out, you know, a year and a half ago now. So like, you know, we were a lot further along where there was just not a whole lot of interest. Now we're at a point where I think the IRs and SIRs are a fundamental aspect of the hobby, and I think we're better off for it, right? I think having illustration rares that are super cool and a lot easier to pull than, you know, some of the alternate arts that we saw in Sword and Shield era. Now, you know, the trainer galleries is sort of where I think they started to experiment with like the more common full arts. But the illustration rares were consistently every single set we're getting, you know, 10 to 15 cards that are beautifully illustrated, full arts, and a lot easy to pull. Like that's an important aspect of the hobby these days.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how those IRs and SIRs go up in value moving forward.
Yep.
Because we're already sort of seeing a shift with what we've seen in reveals so far with the Mega Evolution block. They're not doing the same style of art like that we saw with the IRs and SIRs.
Not what we saw in Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, and I want to highlight too, like the sort of downturn we saw with early in Scarlet and Violet, that continued for like forever. It felt like it was Scarlet and Violet base, Obsidian Flames, Paradox Rift, Shrouded Fable. I mean, things really didn't improve until around. Really, I would say Surging Sparks really is when things really started to take off. And Surging Sparks, I mean, if you look at the expansions of Scarlet and Violet, Surging Sparks is deep into that block. I mean, Surging Sparks is what, like 7 sets deep or something?
Yeah.
It's really deep into Scarlet and Violet. So now if you had to guess, right? No one knows for sure. But, you know, let's say we're, you know, past the point of any further restocks of Scarlet and Violet.
Sure.
Right? So let's say we'll go another 18 months.
Okay.
You know, something like that.
Sure.
You know, so you have Destined Rivals, which is an interesting pick because we're seeing booster boxes now at 350 plus a box.
This set is 3 months old.
3 months old. That is just complete insanity.
Yeah.
You have Paldea Evolved, which is getting a little bit older.
Yeah.
I think it's approaching $400 a box, a booster box. You have, and then you have Twilight Masquerade, which is a super popular set, but it's still new enough to where
we're seeing reprints right now. We're getting a lot of ETBs in the market.
Yeah. And we're still seeing a lot of restocks. So if you had to guess, Logan, which one? Let's go with the top 3. Which ones do you think will take off the most once print runs are over? Because you got a lot of options. There's 151. There's Paldean Fates, Destined Rivals, Surging Sparks. I mean, it's like.
I think that. Again, we're playing Father Time right now, so there's a lot of feeling in this, but my feel is that 151, Prismatic Evolutions, and Destined Rivals will continue to be the top sets of the entire Scarlet and Violet era. I think you have 151, which is super nostalgic. Got a lot of people back into the hobby. Has the Charizard. Just really nostalgic Pokemon and artwork. That's going to be a big one. Prismatic Evolutions has the Evolutions.
Yeah.
the super expensive evolutions.
Yeah.
The pull rates are terrible, but that only makes it, more exclusive when you pull, the Umbreon. And then Destined Rivals, like, we're seeing right now the Team Rocket hype. We're only 3 months in, and we're seeing this desire for it. And I think of course the market always has a thing to play with it. But it doesn't mean that, like, we didn't see that with Black Bolt and White Flare. They're, sought after, and they're exciting and fun. And I love how many illustration rares there are, but we're not seeing that, with them, like we're seeing with Destined Rivals. And kind of like what we talked about earlier, like there will come a time within the next year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years, where the market does finally take a downturn and prices come down. Well, if prices don't come down until Destined Rivals has been out of print, we're not going to see. We're not going to see that much of a downturn.
Not with Scarlet and Violet. Anyway.
Not with Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about sets that are outside of those big three, I think Paldean Evolved, I think is is a big one. I think
when you it's interesting, right? Because when you look at the Scarlet and Violet block, like I don't think we knew how good we had it, right? When there are so many good sets to choose from in Scarlet and Violet.
Yep.
There's Paldean Evolved, 151, Paldean Fate, Surging Sparks, Destined Rivals, Prismatic Evolutions. I mean, we had some really awesome sets, all really close together.
Yep.
Which I think is what's contributed to the crazy hype we're seeing now.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Like Bubble Mew, like that's going to be,
iconic forever.
Like, God, in 10 years, people are going to be opening up, Paldean Fates for hundreds of dollars for a booster bundle. For that Bubble Mew.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of sets here that, we could see, just see prices rise. And that's, I just think, the unfortunate reality about this speculation is just that I think Scarlet and Violet, really brought a lot of hype, and I don't think, and I think fans are going to suffer because Pokemon just wasn't ready for it.
For sure. They definitely did not see this coming. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts on Scarlet and Violet. I think that 151, Destined Rivals, Prismatic Evolutions are going to continue to, lead the way. But I do think there's a lot of other sets that are going to be right behind them. As print runs run out.
Yeah. For sure. Now, something I really wanted to talk to you about, Logan, really quickly are the tariffs. So.
Sure.
We've been, we're about a little over a week out, a week from when tariffs really began.
Yep.
At least for store owners like you and I. How much of an effect have you seen that have on your business and on prices so far?
Well, I mean, just kind of what you said, right? Like, I did a quick, spot check on a lot of the Japanese sets. Before this call, and they're almost all up. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a lot of it, but every single booster box is up over the past 2 weeks, and I think it's safe to say it's because of the tariffs. Now you had a lot of people that were saying that, oh well, the price of a booster box is already priced in for tariffs over the past 2 months, and while I think that's true to some extent, I also said, last week or the week before that I still think that, there's going to be an opportunity for businesses to, raise the price because of this. It's a new valid argument that, okay, well, maybe they were making 20%, margin. Well, okay, well, I still want to make that 20% margin. So I have to add on prices. Terrestrial Festival is back up to $95 a box, where it was like 84, 83.
Yeah, it's going down. Yeah.
A month and a half ago. So, that's one thing. That's the market. That's what the customers are seeing. From a business perspective, like we're tariffs are real, right? I placed a Japanese order this past week, and tariffs, man. I think that, prices are going to have to go up, and I think that that's just the reality. I think that it's a little too early to tell how it'll affect, the demand for Japanese product. I still think we're seeing it. I think Inferno-X is going to be a big test to see if people are willing to pay the high prices for this super hype set. I think those are my thoughts. What about you?
Yeah, so I was sort of waiting to see if, customers would just not pay that price. They would just be like, I'm just going to wait. I'm not paying, whatever this price is, and then plus, a week later, I'm paying 10% more.
Yep.
10 or 15% more. And if there were enough customers that did that, then, basic supply and demand, right? You have less customers, prices will go down.
Yep.
And then it could end up to where maybe the tariffs really didn't have that much of an effect, right? Because there's a certain price that is only, I guess, tolerated by the market, right? By the customer base. But it's not looking like that's the case. I think customers are just paying, are still buying, just like they were before the tariffs were implemented. That just proves how hyped Pokemon is in general. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think with a lot of talks about tariffs, you have this idea that it's going to be a lot more hassle, and it is for if you were buying yourself internationally, but tariffs themselves, are kind of, you forget about it when you buy, from, a U.S. store like yours and mine, where we are the ones that handle the hassle of the tariffs and paying the taxes and things like that, dealing with customs and our packages being delayed. Like, we're the ones that handle that for you. And so, if people are just, wanting a hype set for, 10% more, it's like, probably don't even think about it. At least that's sort of how it's seemed so far. Again, we'll see how Inferno-X does. I think it's going to be a super hype set.
Yeah.
I think we'll still see, huge demand for it, and tariffs aren't going to play much of a role. But, once we hit the bear market of Pokemon, again, whether that's within a year, 2 years, 3 years, who knows? Maybe the Japanese market is completely changed by then anyways, but who knows? Yeah. But as of right now, not too much of a difference.
Yeah, for sure. Now, a big topic I wanted to talk to you about, Logan, and this might be our last topic for the podcast, is I want to talk about local game stores. So they're in a really weird spot right now.
Yeah.
They're getting product from their distributors at a price where it basically forces them to sell it close to market. Yeah. And not only are they kind of looked as the bad guys in this situation, right? Because, customers outside looking in might feel like they're just price gouging, basically. Yeah. They're making 100% profit margins on on what they're selling, which is not the case. And at the same time, Pokemon seems to be injecting tons of product into large box stores. So we saw the prismatic premium collection box and Sam's Club. I think there were 200,000 units or something insane. And then the prismatic bundles in Costco, and everything that's sold by Best Buy, the Walmarts, the Targets. Yep. All of that's holding at MSRP. Right. So every time local game stores are forced to compete with large box stores like the Walmarts of the world, they're in a really weird spot. So what do you think about Pokemon doing this, and where do you think this puts local game stores?
Um, I mean, it's a really weird, again, it's a really weird time for the hobby, where Pokemon simply can't print enough to meet, the demand. I think for more normal conditions, local game stores are a necessity, because Pokemon doesn't have the infrastructure to distribute directly to them. And so you directly to all the customers. You can't fill Costco full of Pokemon, because that's what that's where like that's the amount of product that people usually are buying, when in a regular market. If you were to completely, ditch local game stores, like you would have to fill the entire warehouse of Pokemon, for that area. So it's not realistic for the general, environment. But I think for now, I think it's tough for local game stores, for a lot of different reasons. They're getting less product. Their product that you're usually getting for wholesale prices, they're still getting it for wholesale prices, but they're usually getting them for, much cheaper. Whereas now, distribution is actually pricing them up, because they know that they can make money off of it too. And so, it's unfortunate, but, I think that's just the place that we're at now. I think that, will this continue? We'll see. We have a lot of sets that are going to continue to be reprinted. Like we talked about earlier, will Destin and Rivals have their own Costco bundles, Sam's bundles? Probably. I don't know. Yeah. It's an interesting time. What do you think?
Yeah. So I want to highlight something really quickly, and one of the big reasons why this sort of model exists, right, where Pokemon will release product to the distributors, and then these distributors have accounts with local game stores, online stores like Poke&E, things like that. One of the big reasons why that model exists is because it's very risky if Pokemon chose to try and make that product available, directly to customers.
Right.
Okay. Because all the infrastructure, everything that's required to have storefront stores for Pokemon. I mean, that is a huge risk that they don't want to take on. It's very smart of them, right? They take most of that load, they put on the distributors and the local game stores. And now you might ask, well, I mean, if they release the product directly to customers, I mean, they'd make crazy money. And that's true, but if the market goes down, and it inevitably will, right? All that infrastructure and everything they put in, like, they still have to pay for that, even when, there's a downturn. So that's part of the reason why this model exists. Now, I think one of the advantages that local game stores have is they don't just sell Pokemon cards. So they can take some of the bad parts about this happening, right? Where they're taking in product from distributors, and they have to price it at a price where it's closer to market. They're not going to get enough sale. They're not going to get a lot of sales from that. But they have other things that they sell. They do Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! They do like Warhammer type games, things games. Like that. They can spread out their revenue. But, and we've talked about this, Pokemon cards are a huge part, though, of any local game store. And they might be able to, adapt in the short term. But I do think that if this continues for the long term, I mean, we could see local game stores suffer. And if that happens, what do you think local game stores, the role local game stores have specifically with Pokemon TCG?
So I think that's a great segue into what I was about to say. I think there is a buyer for everything. And what I mean by that is that local game stores, online shops, you and me, we have a culture around our store, around our shop, where people watch our content, they know who we are, they know that we're trustworthy, they know if they buy from us, they're going to get great customer service, they're going to get their product quickly, and they're going to get them below market price. Now, you have local game stores where they're in person, you have a lot of people that go there, interact with it. It's a community, basically. And the differences between your store, my store, local game stores, and Costco, Walmart, Target is the price, but it lacks culture. Now, and so, to answer your question, I think there will always be a space for stores like ours and the local game stores specifically. I think if you're a customer that wants product for MSRP and that's all you care about, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. That's the point.
Right.
And that culture right now, at least, is waiting in line, waiting for product drops, being the first to click, the add to cart button. If that's what you're looking for, go for it. Like, I'm not telling you to not buy, from my store if, you're looking for the best prices, because I can't offer the best prices. Right. I can't offer MSRP. Alex, I know that, he can't either. Brian from Pokémon, who has distribution, they can't either. Right. If you're looking for MSRP, at least right now, that's the culture that you want. And that makes sense. Yeah. And so, but I think that with that being said, there are people who want to dive into the culture of going to their game store, playing in, competitive local matches, in their TCG, opening packs there, talking with other collectors there. When you're talking about online stores, it's like you're in a community where people know this person's content, this store's content. Maybe they're making funny content, maybe they're making entertaining content, maybe it's educational. Like, they're buying that product over MSRP for a reason, because there's a culture that they have, subscribed to. And so I think that there's an audience for both people that want MSRP no matter what, and those that are okay with paying a little bit more for the culture that they're looking for. Now, scalpers are, another thing. You have local game stores that are scalping, you have, businesses that are scalping. But when you're doing it for culture and you're pricing appropriately, where you're, as a business, are able to make a little bit of money to continue to buy product to, and develop that culture, while also being trustworthy and fair, I think there is an audience for that. And I think there always will be. Yeah.
And you really hit on what I was kind of thinking too, and that's culture, right? So building your culture as a store owner is just extremely important.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it can make the difference between succeeding and failing. So any viewers watching, if you want to start your own online store or brick and mortar store, creating a good culture with your customers and your viewers and your followers, extremely important to be successful.
I agree. I think that's a good thing to end on in today's episode. I think that building culture is something that you absolutely need if you're starting a business. It's right up there with content creation. They go hand in hand. Your content creation needs to enforce a culture, and that's why you want to make consistent content that is sort of revolves around the same sort of stuff week in, week out. But yeah, culture is so important.
For sure. Guys, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'm Alex with Poke Legends TCG. I really hope that you enjoyed the podcast. And again, I cannot stress enough, share this with your friends. Please like and subscribe. Send us questions.
Yes.
Anything you want us to go over in our next episode, we'd be happy to take those on. And we'll call your name out directly in the podcast, get you some, recognition. But I hope you enjoyed the episode today.
Yep. Thank you guys. I'm Logan from Zippy's Card Corner. We will see you guys next week. Thank y'all.
See you guys.